everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. My name is Sam, and since we are in November, it means it's time to do my October wrap up. October feels like a whirlwind of a month. I don't really know where it went, and I was in a bit of a funk for a large chunk of the month. I still managed to read 12 books this month, which I don't know how I pulled it off. I was just reading and reading and reading the last week or so. This also wasn't the best month for me in terms of quality of books. I feel like I read a lot of mid-range books, which that just happens sometimes. Might have just been my life and everything that was going on that I wasn't really invested. Let's just jump in and talk about what I read. A lot of Kindle reads this month. First book that I read was Empress of Fay by Briar Bolin. I received this as an ARC through NetGalley. I ended up rating this one 3 stars, and I just didn't really care about this book either way. This was a buddy read with bestie Emily, who is always linked down below. This book is book 3 in the Blood of a Fay series. This series has been a roller coaster for me. Book 1 was very promising, very intrigued, set it up to be like it was going to be a great series, and that quickly took a nosedive for book 2 for me. And this one just was middle of the road. I honestly don't know if I could even tell you what happened in this book. In this one, I really felt like nothing was happening. By this point in a series, book 3, we should have a plot with an end goal and things happening at basically every stage. And I feel like the plot of this book didn't start until 75% of the way through. None of the characters, either our main characters or our side characters, were doing anything. There was also this inclusion of like dreamscapes, which made no sense to the story, didn't add anything to the plot. It was just really annoying. By the end of this, I just really didn't have any strong emotions either way, so it's very much a middle of the road book. There's only one book left in the series, and I am very excited to finish this one off. Also, I meant to mention this at the beginning of the video, but I finally got my merch in from N Embroideries and Emmy Rosam. I'll have them both linked down below. Emmy did an amazing job at picking out and creating this design. I think it's amazing and very much explains me as a reader. I am a feral book reader, so very excited about this. I will be living in it. Absolutely love it so much. Anyway, back to my reads. The next book that I read this month was Air by Katie Robert. This is book 2 in the Bloodline Vampires series. This is a trilogy, like novella length books. And this book, as well as the next book, are in my finishing series vlog posted a couple weeks ago. I'll have it linked up in the cards if you haven't seen it. This was another 3-star read for me. I wasn't completely obsessed with book 1 when I read it last year. It's very much just like a typical vampire romance situation. In book 1, we are following Mina, who is half vampire, half human, and her father ships her off to one of the other bloodline vampires, like one of the original vampire lines, to essentially just breed and continue this line of vampires, and it goes from there. I found book 2 to be very much smut over plot, and yeah, just like nothing was really happening. Even though these books are only like 150 pages, this book felt slow. Like it felt like it took a long time to get through, which was a bit frustrating. Because these books are only 150 pages, I immediately jumped into Queen, which is book 3 in the series. There's a lot more plot to this one, but I still feel like our characters weren't really doing anything. The magic system was a little strange in this one, and I felt like our characters were just having the same conversations over and over again and weren't getting anywhere with them. So this one was definitely a frustrating one. but by the end of it, I was really intrigued to read Katie Roberts' like monster romance series, which I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but I believe it's also shorter books. At least the first one was only like 180 pages and links to the series slightly. So I was definitely intrigued by that, but I'm not going to be picking up those likely anytime soon. But very glad to get another series crossed off my list. That was a very big focus for this month. The next book that I read in October was Magnolia Park's Into the Dark. And did I finish this or did this book finish me? I don't know. It's 5 stars. I sobbed my way through this book. I love these characters. This was also in that reading vlog, which I did read a couple other things in that blog, but ended up being just like a Magnolia Park's Into the Dark reading vlog. I absolutely love this. The things that these characters go through, although they're in an entirely different economic bracket and lifestyle than myself, the emotional and like day-to-day things that they deal with and think about and like their thought processes are very real and very relatable. This is a series that I can't in good conscience recommend to people because it's so emotionally devastating and like you go through so much with these characters. But if you are interested in the series and you have been thinking about this series, picking it up and reading it, I would highly recommend, which I feel like just contradicts myself, but you know what I mean. If you're interested in it already, pick it up. I love these books and I'm so glad that I splurged on these original covers. The art is fantastic. I believe it's her friend, Jessa's friend that does these, Emmy Lawless. Beautiful. I won't talk about that book for too much more. I feel like I have talked about that book on and on and on my channel for the entire month, I guess. Definitely a top favorite series for me and one that I want to go back and read and desperately want Daisy's next book. The next book that I read in October was The Resurrection of Wildflowers by Michaela Smeltzer. I ended up rating this 3 stars. After the ending of book 1, I was really intrigued to see what was going to happen in this sequel, and it was cute, but based on how book 1 went, I was honestly just waiting for the other shoe to drop, and not a lot happened in this book. The chapters were short, so I was able to read it very quickly, but nothing was really happening. Some of the decisions and things that took place in this book were like major red flags, and I just didn't love our characters overall. I am glad that we got to see how everything wrapped up for Salem and Thayer, but it was also kind of lackluster and a little strange. Next, I listened to Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. This is book 2 in the Rebel Blue Ranch series. And I ended up rating this 3.5 stars. I don't know if it's because I listened to it as an audiobook and it was the narrators, or like I only listen to audiobooks when I'm driving farther distances, like to work or to my boyfriend's or something. And I don't drive every day, so I don't listen to audiobooks super quickly. It usually takes me 2 weeks or so to get through an audiobook. As this one just didn't entirely hit for me. I felt like the third act conflict was a little weird and didn't really make sense for the characters. In this book, we're following Ada and Wes, who meet at a bar and have a little like hookup situation, and the next morning come to find out Ada is the designer who is going to be helping with the renovation of the big houses on the family ranch that Wes is like orchestrating, I guess. This was so cute. I was like smiling and giggling a lot through this book and listening to it. I really like that Lila Sage includes mental health rep in her books, but I felt the same way with the first book in the series, which can't remember what it's called. It's like she includes mental health, but doesn't really do anything with it. Like we don't really get to see the characters struggling or experiencing these situations throughout the whole book. So I wish that we got a little bit more with that, a little bit more, just more scenes that depict our characters and their growth that they go through. But I'm very excited for Lost and Lassoed. Is that the next book? I've heard very good things about it, and I feel like it's going to hurt me and be a little bit too close to home. So we'll see. I definitely want to jump into that probably next, or maybe very soon after I finish the audiobook that I'm currently listening to. The next book that I read was The Endurance of Wildflowers, and this is the last book in the Wildflowers duet. This is like just a little novella. And this is essentially just an extended epilogue. We kind of see, I think it's like a year, maybe a couple months after The Endurance of Wildflowers, and we just see them going through different holidays and things and just how their life is progressing, which again, this was another 3-star. It was cute, but nothing like extraordinary. I didn't feel connected enough to these characters. And again, some of the situations and decisions that are made are just strange. But it was a very quick read, and I'm glad that I read it and have finished yet another series off my list. The next book that I read was another buddy read with bestie Emily, and we read Sacrificial Sinners by J. Rose. I ended up rating this 3 stars. Do we see a theme? It's been a lot of 3 stars this month. This book is the second book in the Blackwood Institute series. In the series, we're following a group of young adults who struggle with severe mental illness and also have some sort of criminal record, and they're admitted into this mental institution to go to class and be able to serve out their sentence and go back to their normal lives. This one was substantially darker and more gruesome than the first book, and it really felt like nothing was happening for a large majority of this book and felt just kind of repetitive. Like we're getting the same scenes, and just the storyline didn't really make sense to me. I think there was some like weird time jumps in this one, so it was very hard to figure out where in the storyline we were. There's one book left in the series, and I feel like it's gonna be a little strange based on how book 2 ended, but I'm really hoping to get to that book sooner than later and just cross the series off my list and be done with it. The next book, another buddy read. Emily and I 9 times out of 10 have some sort of buddy read going on. It's my absolute favorite thing in the world, and I'm so glad that we do this and are friends because it just is honestly like the best part of my day. So thank you, Emily. Please, let's do these forever. The next one that we read was The Dare by Harley LaRue. This is the like novella that comes before the Losers duet, and this takes place at a Halloween party and is kind of the catalyst for the events that take place in the Losers duet. And essentially this is just a very kinky, dark novella. And honestly, I had a lot of fun with it. I think it was just exactly what I needed. It was very short, very like fast paced, and obviously the plot is not super complicated, but I feel like the plot was very fleshed out. Our characters are at a Halloween party post high school graduation and are like reconnecting for the first time since, and obviously they have all this backstory, and we get at least glimpses into their backstory, so it makes sense. And I just think that this novella was done really well. It was just a really fun, spicy Halloween time. And I rated this one 4 stars. The next book that I read was When the Moon Hatched by Sarah A. Parker. I ended up rating this 3.5 stars. I was really, really excited to go into this book. I thought I was going to just absolutely love it. And I really don't know how to explain my opinions on this book without giving specific examples and spoilers. But I feel like what everybody knows about this book is you get a lot of world building and like info dumping, and that's very true. The prologue especially is very difficult to follow. And with that information, I felt like I was just waiting for it to come into play more than it did as I was reading through the book. Since I got about halfway, there's this scene that just does not make sense and didn't really fit with what was happening. And as I kept reading, I was thinking, like, I don't know what the plot of this book is. Like, there's not really anything that's going on other than our main character, Rave, is something akin to an assassin, I believe. And she's out for blood for this one guy. And that's kind of the background plot of the whole book, but it's not really the main focus. It's kind of like, I really don't know how to talk about this book because I was very confused the whole time, thinking that with how complex and intricate and beautiful that this world is, we're not really doing anything in the world. We're just like seeing a couple different places. There's nothing really happening. And I just really felt like we didn't get a lot of great character relationships or connections. And it just left something to be desired for me. The twist definitely got me. I personally did not guess anything that was coming. And I think that it set up for an interesting book too. I just think that the world was too complicated for what it is. There was a lot of words that were tweaked slightly, like for day and night and mother and father. These words were tweaked like just enough to make it difficult. Like day was spelled D-A-E instead of D-A-Y, and ma was M-A-H. And it was just unnecessary. Like, it just made it more difficult to follow and understand, for me personally at least. Yeah, I just 3.5 stars. The next book that I read was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, I believe. This is very short, like 170 page modern classic. And I ended up rating this 3.5 stars. I enjoyed my time with this. The beginning of this book was very interesting. We're following a shepherd named Santiago who is discovering his personal legend. And this book talks a lot about dreams and how a lot of people forget about their dreams, or they don't pursue their dreams or push them off, things like that. And it was very interesting. I can see how this could change the trajectory of some people's lives. But I found once we got to roughly the midway point, it started to slow down a lot, and it started talking about, the tone kind of changed into something more philosophical and religious, which just is not my personal preference. A lot less of, I'm gonna go chase my dream, and more, God is giving me these direction. And it just, the tone just felt like it completely changed for me, and it wasn't self-discovery. It was more just following a predestined pathway. So unfortunately that decreased my enjoyment of this book, but I think it is a really good read and interesting, and definitely made me think about my own life and reconnecting with things that I am passionate about. So that was fun. I enjoyed that. But yeah, pretty quick and definitely an interesting read, different to things that I usually pick up. Now, the very last book that I am currently reading is Buffy the Vampire Slayer Out of the Madhouse. This is by Christopher Golden and Nancy Holder. I am currently only 56 pages into this book, but I am filming this video a couple days early, so I definitely think I will be able to finish this month. Fingers crossed. I have a feeling that this is going to be a 3.5 star rating. These books aren't anything super special or revolutionary or anything. Some of these books tie directly into the Buffy the Vampire show, and other ones, like this one, is sort of a side quest where we have our characters, we know things that are going on in the TV show, but they don't directly impact this book, and this book doesn't directly impact the rest of the TV series. In this one, we're following the Scooby Gang as they look into and try to defeat this week's Monster of the Week. And Giles is out in New York City at a librarian conference. So it's pretty fun so far, but like I said, nothing super revolutionary or exciting. I just really want to get through and read all of these books that my mom has because I love Buffy. But that is everything for my October wrap up. A decent reading month. Very glad to have knocked off a bunch of series that I'm in the middle of, either to be completely finished or being caught up on them. Some just continuation, so I have only a couple books left in those series. Let me know down below what you read in October or what your favorite read was. I would love to chat with you. If you did enjoy this video, please give it a like so that I know. I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.